Welcome to the 55th FSHP Annual here live in Orlando, and the first ever FSHP live podcast here at the conference. Today we're joined by John Armitstead and Kevin Sneed. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
My pleasure.
And just for our audience, can you tell them just a little bit about your role as well as your experience here at FSHP?
Well, my daytime job, I'm Dean of our USFL Tenasia College of Pharmacy, and we say University of South Florida. Many people still think Miami, but we're in Tampa. I still remain a practicing clinician, and FSHP is always one of my favorite times of the year.
And I'm John Armitstead, System Director of Pharmacy, Lee Health. That's in Fort Myers in Cape Coral, Estero, Florida. 1,800 bed, 5 hospital system, and really to keep up to date, FSHP is the place to be to really understand and kind of learn new things about health system practice.
So you guys are both amazing leaders in our profession. How important is it for you to build a culture of growth in your workplace?
Well, I mean, growth is what leaders bring on, and they spur it on, they inspire it, and sometimes we also perspire it. So it's a matter of, that's what leaders do, is they assist moving folks from where they are to where they should be, and kind of matching that with the organizations that they're in, and leading towards that advanced growth. So, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, I think growth takes on so many different meanings, especially in terms of making sure that the people around us are growing. At the moment that you have a young practitioner come on board, or in our case, young students, you want to see people grow. And then as they gather expertise, you want to be in a position to have the system capitalize on that growth. So, yeah, growth is definitely, as a leader, one thing that is almost a measure and a metric of who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're putting together a faculty, staff, anything of that nature, what are you looking for to set your organization or a health system apart from others? What are the qualities in pharmacists and pharmacy residents, things like that? What are you looking for that you want to add to your team?
Very often, I get that question pretty often. The first thing you have to do is understand your mission. You have to understand what are you trying to achieve, what are your goals, what are you trying to accomplish. And then that's number one. Then number two, you want to make sure that you are matching up talent to that mission. So that talent has to be diverse, is more than likely going to be diverse because you have diverse aspects of your mission,
Exactly.
of what you're trying to accomplish. And so for me, the most important thing often is talent acquisition, but, I think, I'll make a comment a little bit later because I think it'll be more provocative at that moment, but I think diversity is a key component when you're trying to match it to the mission.
Absolutely, and I want to echo the aspect of aligning with the mission of the organization. A lot of times as pharmacy folks, we think about pharmacy and the world revolves around pharmacy. Mm-hmm. It actually doesn't. In the case of healthcare provision, it revolves around the patient. And with that, it's the organization that supports the delivery of care to those patients. So what first thing you need to do as an organizational leader is to really understand the culture, the environment, the mission, the vision, the core values of the organization, and really align your plans with that mission. We've been successful at Lee Health. I've moved from 190 employees to over 360 in a decade. And that's tremendous new growth on new positions, new opportunities, new ways that we can improve health. But the biggest thing we're doing is we're aligning with the organizational goals to really deliver better care.
How important do you think it is for leaders not to only lead, but learn how to follow? Where leaders are always thinking lead, but they're not understanding the importance of how important it is for a leader to learn how to follow, especially in a team environment. How important is that for you guys? Or do you guys agree with that?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, you've got to learn how to follow as well. But one of the things that I like to think about in leading is you don't have to be the innovator all the time, you as the individual. I think here's the key to leadership, is learning where the early adoption period is, interacting with others, so you're on the cusp of understanding what is successful in other locations for the profession, for improving patients. And I think really capitalizing on early adoption adoption phases of new service growth is really key. And as a leader, you don't have to be the innovator. You should watch the innovators and then learn how to channel those once they become in the area that they should be early adopting.
I couldn't agree more. He said, John said a key core values. He said that earlier. I think that's critical because part of your core value system should be learning and understanding that it may not always be your idea. It just needs to be the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to support the people around you that have the best ideas because we're trying to collectively come to a level of outcome that is going to be not only for us, but in our case, and it's going to be best for patients. So I think sometimes, you're going to be the one out front, and then sometimes you need to sit back and watch and let other people kind of take that role.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I just want to tag that
Mm-hmm.
because it's really leading isn't always being that person in the front. You can lead through following in inspiring, encouraging, really cheering on those individuals that are doing great things.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning not to be the leader, but really help focus on what is advancing care delivery is really the aspect of what you should do as a leader. So support those processes, even if you're not directly providing.
And how important is it to cultivate a healthy culture in your environment? Like, how do you do that? And two, how do you keep it going? How do you build that culture with your staff or faculty?
We hear the term all the time, culture eats strategy every day for lunch.
Facts.
I mean, culture ultimately is the most important thing. People need to wake up and they need to buy into something bigger than them as an individual. They need to buy into the mission of what you're trying to accomplish. They need to look to their left and right, and they need to know that there are people who are here to support them, and then when needed, they need to be ready to support other people. And so that's a part of culture that is often missed because, we tend to think about just the social aspects of the word culture. But in reality, what we really are talking about is buying into and putting effort towards something bigger than you as an individual.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we did at Lee Health is we started a really robust continuous professional development program when I first got there. The first year, we focused on pharmacists because to get over 100 people to start thinking of a new way of looking at it and investing in themselves is really a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
The second year, we added pharmacy technicians to that, realizing that every workforce member has got goals, ideals, things that they'd like to move towards or to improve in themselves and with others. So coming up with individualized plans for individuals is really key, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, here's what everybody needs to do. That doesn't work. It really gets down to each individual employee and the encouragement of their growth.
Let me just add on to that too, because I think inside of culture, there has to be safety and support. People have to walk into the culture and they have to have a feeling of safety for themselves as an individual, and then they have to know that they're going to be supported. And if you don't have that, the culture will break down very quickly. So I think that's another aspect that would certainly be feed into that question.
Do you think that someone's household and how they were raised as a child plays a role in their developmental stage as a leader throughout their life?
That's a very difficult question. There's two sides to that coin at all times. Because, for example, we have watched tremendous leaders grow up in not so great households and when they were young.
But those could be learning experiences also.
Exactly. It could be learning experiences, or it could turn out the other way. But at the same time, we've seen people that probably had the best of everything growing up, and had great leaders to emulate, but then didn't turn out to be the best leader for themselves. So, I think mentoring. I think the question of are leaders made or born. Sometimes I try to answer that question as either or in the past, but sometimes it's both and. Because some people are going to be born and they're just going to gravitate towards leadership, and other people, but the majority of us, we need mentoring and we need someone that's going to support and believe in us and help us grow. and to be able to have discernment and of decision making.
Yeah, it's not an all or none. We're a sum of everything that happens to us, our environment, our situation. Would I be different if I was not as advantaged as I was growing up? Certainly. Mm-hmm. But I would suggest that what you do with it is really the important aspect of things, as opposed to thinking that it only comes from one source. It's what you build, and you're the sum of everything that's happened to you, but also, if you're perceptive, what's happened in society and the environment and your resources that you've got and so forth. So there's a lot of different factors.
In terms of the profession of pharmacy, what do you want to see more newer grads and the next generation? What do you want to see them do better than maybe your generation has done or couldn't do? What do you think is the future for the next generation of pharmacists?
Right now we're at a point in healthcare at this particular moment where we need to transition much more into a patient-driven system. Yeah. We have to get there, because very often, and before I go any further, I sit on the board of a 400 physician practice group, and very often when you peer off into the future of where things are going to go, I see enormous opportunities, but we have to prepare a workforce of people all wanting to get there and take advantage of those opportunities. So very often I say the ultimate goal for me as a college of pharmacy is workforce development to help achieve and get to that point of the opportunity in the future.
Yeah, that's a really difficult question. I don't so much, even though I'm from a different generation, if you will, I think we're all in the current moment.
Yes.
So I don't really separate that. I don't know that there's, what do I expect of the newer pharmacists, right? We're some of where we think the profession should be, but also where it is today. So I think you always take your environment and what is today, and you think, how can you improve it for tomorrow? And I think we do that collectively. Usually whenever I bring groups together to address things, I try to get well-diversified groups, such that we do have new ideas as well as some seasoned ideas, if you will. And really just advance the practice, which is having a mission, going back to that mission statement, ours, and if you talk to any one of my staff members, they could probably recite it to you. It's optimizing patient outcomes through interdisciplinary medication management. So the key is to have a mission that you're driven towards, and continue to innovate to provide services to meet that mission. If the mission needs to be revised every once in a while, you need to get together and revise it. At our site, we do that every 2 years. We take a look at where we are and where we're going. We're currently using the high value pharmacy enterprise framework to kind of establish where we should be for the next 5 to 10 years.
And my job is to produce the people that can help him achieve that goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I see our job.
So as leaders, no matter what profession you're a leader in, you evolve over the years. You're not the same leader you are now as you were 30, 40 years ago. How has your leadership styles changed over the past 10 years?
Well, I've been in pharmacy leadership management for about 40 years now. I can tell you that it's more grassroots. It's more forming teams. It's more trying to get the best talents out of each one of your employees. It's less autocratic. It's less defined as far as here's exactly how you do it. It's a matter of you get groups together that are interested, focused, enthusiastic, positive, optimistic, and driving those factors. So for new folks, students and others, I would think be that optimistic, enthusiastic, contributor that is really thinking, how can they contribute their best talents to a team to be successful for either patient care or advancing practice?
My leadership over really a 15-year period now has evolved. I'm much more patient than I was before, because now the stakes are higher and we're in the midst of ambiguity and change. And so you have to have a level of understanding. You have to be able to see beyond and look at the bigger vision of where you're trying to go. And then you have to really kind of be a supportive structure to help people get there. And so it's not really all about just strategy and metrics and everything else. It, really is about making sure that we put a structure in place so that people understand why those metrics are important, why those measures are important, and then helping them grow. And so I think over the years, I've become a lot more patient because we are in the midst of a massive change in pharmacy right now.
Where do you want to see the profession of pharmacy in the next 5 to 10 years? What would you like to see?
Well, I'd like to see more direct patient care, specifically in the ambulatory environment, and our dean is such a great example of that. But really directly interacting with patients.
Okay.
That's something in my health system that we've had a strong historical anchor in inpatient care and the delivery of traditional community practice, if you will.
Okay.
But advancing into direct patient care in ambulatory settings, working collaboratively on a regular basis with other providers is really the design of where we should be. So, for example, in looking at MTM is a good step, but MTM seems to be a midway step towards CMM.
Yep.
And really getting to a higher level of practice where we're one of those providers that is directly providing care in concert with that. And that's what ties back into our mission of optimizing patient outcomes through interdisciplinary medication management. We're the medication management experts, but really that's got to be integrated into that team delivery for the benefit of that patient.
I want to see an evolution of the payer system to make sure that we can support all of the new pharmacists that are coming out and providing all the transdisciplinary care that clearly we need in this country. So when I'm talking about it, I often talk to people about getting in, shared risk, total risk, and for us, while I think it's very important that we all get provider status, I think it's a critical step, but it's not the final step. We have to make sure that we continue to evolve into a payer mix that will allow all of us to continue to provide this interdisciplinary care that clearly we all want to get to.
So I think that in order for you to be successful as a leader, it's important for you to recognize your weaknesses, but not also recognize them, but do something towards making those weaknesses strengths. What is something that you've seen right now in the profession from leaders, students and professionals, that are weaknesses and strengths of current leaders right now in 2021?
Well, my view is a little bit different than the way you posed the question. I like to think that we should develop and utilize the strengths of the individuals, not so much worry about developing their weaknesses. However, what we need to do is put together teams that have the strengths that are kind of needed for that project or for that endeavor. So putting together the best team, and that's what I've done with my administrative team. They don't all have the same strengths that I have, and that's good. I don't want them to replicate what I'm trying to do. I want them to supplement and really create the team so that together we've got all the bases covered, so to speak. So actually, early in my career, like I mentioned, I've been 40 years doing this. Early in my career, I focused on my weaknesses. Actually, what I've learned over the years is to get teammates that support and have different strengths in being able to, for example, influence folks or collaborate better or to accomplish goals. So realizing that every individual's got talents and strengths, and to call on those and integrate those is really key.
I'm 100%. No, that's the philosophy of my leadership style, everything that John just said. One mistake I think leaders in the past have continued to make, if you go by the proverbial 80-20 rule, 20% of your people are going to be disgruntled, 20% are going to have a problem, and then we will pour 80% of our energy trying to pacify the 20%. I said, I'm not going to take that approach. I'm going to pour 80% of my energy into the 80% of the people who are optimistic and who are team-driven, that want to come in and do a great job. And not that we're not going to focus on the 20%. I leave that for somebody else, but we want to give them a reason to come join us. And I think by taking that approach, you attract more bees with honey than vinegar. We have attracted many more people on our team, so now we have a total team structure all moving in concert, and we're capitalizing on the strength of the individual and not penalizing them or holding them back because of their weakness. So I think I agree with that completely, but I know in the past, I know leaders have often just kind of focused on the problem when they should have been focusing on the people who are going to get you where you want to go and then really move things forward.
So to end it up on a fun question, I like to ask this question every time I speak with someone. Let's say we go back to undergrad, maybe even high school if you want to go back that far, and we were to speak to your best friend or the faculty member that you were very close with, who would they say you were? If I go up to them and be like, hey, who was Kevin? Who was John? What would they say?
I was the friendliest person they ever met.
Okay.
And you know what? Today I'm still the friendliest person you're ever going to meet.
But it was a pleasure meeting you.
Well, that's a tough question. I like interacting with people, and I still do that on a regular basis. I can tell you that during my high school days, I was terrible at English, great at math. And,
I agree. Me
and
too.
now what do I do all the time? I write proposals. So I write things. I've written over 100 articles. So I wound up the writer that I never thought that I would be. And I thought everything was a math problem, and and it's not.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
yeah, so we know you're a busy day today, so we really appreciate you sitting down with us.
Pleasure.
And everyone that's listening, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Nima.
My name is Aaron.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.